I'm Hao from Microsoft Research, together with Kwan San, also from Microsoft Research, and Jie from Tsinghua University. We hosted this year's KDD Cup. So let me just represent the co-organized chairs to summarize this year's KDD Cup. I will mainly talk about 5 topics: the participation of the KDD Cup, and the whole story behind this task, like why we choose this task, the data we provided, and the fun part we have learned, or some interesting stuff we have found. Finally, the winners of the cup. So for the participation, we have a total of 554 teams participate this year's KDD Cup, and totally 924 individuals. Because we don't allow an individual to participate multiple teams, so each one can only be in one team. In general, we have like around 3.7K submissions. Because this year is a little bit different, because if you submit multiple times, you will gain nothing, because we don't have a real ground-truth data for you to tune your parameters. So, but still, we can see lots of people work very hard. In one phase, I think this one team submit probably 60 times. So I think they just keep revising the method and try to get the best results. Comparing with previous years, I think we are just a little bit less than last year's participation, but in general, on par with previous year's statistics. Let's move to the task. So, as you know, the task is to rank research institutions. We separate the task into 3 subtasks, actually 3 phases. Each phase lasts for 1 month, and finally we will aggregate the data at the end to make the final results. So why we choose this task? As you may know, like there are just lots of university ranking systems globally, like this one from US News. Another famous one is Times Higher Education World University Rankings. QS, World University Rankings. And this is the Center for World University Rankings. And this is from China. It's a Shanghai Academic Ranking of World Universities. We have so many this kind of ranking systems out there. According to a paper submitted to this KDD Cup, there are over 400 this kind of rankings globally. But the problem is, you never know how they rank these universities and what kind of data they used. So this year we choose this topic. Our original plan was we just call for a very open and transparent method to rank all the universities. So we try to get a very nice method, and everyone can agree. And then next time you don't need to read all these different ranking systems. Just use these results generated by the KDD Cup. You can get the overall ranking of all the universities. We are pretty excited about this in the beginning, because I think it's very impactful if we can agree with one method that everyone agrees. So, but the reality is the reality. Finally, we find out we have some problem, because there's no way for us to evaluate the results. Suppose team 1 submit one results, and team 2 submit another result. You have no idea which one is better, right? So, but there are some other solutions we can solve this problem, like just use the consensus data. So suppose we have 500 teams. Everyone submit a ranking list, and we just use the average of all these 500 teams to produce the ground-truth data. This is called so-called consensus data. It is very successful in like weather prediction and some other prediction tasks. So we can choose this as the one to choose for sure. But if we choose this as the one to choose, we put us in high risk because, as you know, this can be easily manipulated by some users. Like you can create like 500 teams and submit the same results, and then definitely you will win this competition, right? We don't want that to happen. And also another reason we don't choose the consensus data is that some teams are very good at producing some good ranking results, but not all the teams can provide good ranking results. So there must be some noise in this consensus data. So, so we have to make a task that can be fairly evaluated. And so we think about this. Since all the papers published in top venues are the most important factor to rank research institutions, why not we just predict whose paper are accepted the most in future top conferences? And then in this case, we can use the future top conferences acceptance data to evaluate every team's result. So that's the whole story behind this task. Whose paper are accepted the most towards measuring the impact of research institutions. So once we have this task, we check the notification deadlines for, as well as the final version deadlines for over 100 top conferences. So we check using all the methods. We have academic service, so we have all these top conference deadlines. And also we also verified it using just manually check all the web homepage of conferences. Finally, because we only have 3 months, right? We only have 3 months for the KDD Cup. Finally, we found that less than 10 conferences fill in the time frame between March to May. So the next tough task is we actually emailed all the conference chairs of these conferences and make sure they will provide all the data to us after the notification date. So we got lucky. Finally, we have 8 conferences in 3 phases. That's for task 1, phase 1, we have SIG-IR, SIG-MOD, and SIGCOMM. For phase 2, we have KDD, ICML. And for phase 3, we have FSE, multimedia, and MobiCom. This is the whole story behind this task. This is for the submission stage. Phase 1, we ask the user to submit 3 conferences. Phase 2, 2 conferences. Phase 3, 3 conferences. But in the evaluation stage, we only evaluate actually just 1 conference. So some team participants ask us, why just evaluate 1 conference? Why not just evaluate all of them? Because we are still in risk. So as you know, like there are some other cases like you probably won't expect, right? So all these conference chairs are very busy, so they all agreed to provide all the data. But what if they cannot provide the data in time, right? And also, you probably already know, like some conference chairs work very hard. Like for FSC this year, I think the original deadline, acceptance deadline is like June 4th or June 5th. But they work very hard and release the data 10 days before this deadline, which is before our submission deadline. So people are complaining about this on our website and said that you should not use FSE as the evaluation set because everyone gets the results already. Yeah, so although we have already talked to FAC chairs before, but probably just forgot. So that's why finally, at least, we have 1 conference ready for evaluation in each phase. This is the whole story. Hope you can understand. We are pretty bold this year, actually. So we made a very bold attempt. Why I say that? It is a really challenging task. First of all, no one chooses data beforehand. probably in KDD Cup history, I don't think, I only know the past few years. I didn't see this kind of case. The ground truth data only available after the acceptance date of each conferences. The second part is not necessarily a supervised learning problem because we don't have ground truth data. So you don't have anything can supervise your method, right? The participant teams don't have the official dev or test data to tune the parameters. Of course, you can always utilize some previous history data as your supervised data, but we don't provide it. Since we don't have ground truth data, of course, we don't have traditional leaderboard. So we have a real-time leaderboard, but this leaderboard is just, we use the consensus data from all the teams to build the ground truth data. And then we use this ground truth to evaluate each team's submissions. This is just for fun, to almost all the teams, just for fun. But for us, we did a secret experiment. So I will just report later. This is very valuable to us, actually, this consensus data. So we really made a bold attempt. I will expand later. Finally, I think so far it is very successful. Okay, let's move to the data part. We allow using any open data on the web because we want this to be open, because we want an open and a transparent method on open data. Then next time, people can just rerun your experiments and get the similar results. So of course, we also, for those people who don't want to search for the web for data, we also provide a large Microsoft Academic Graph for you to use. And we also provide some a nice API for you to explore the graph. I heard from some participants, they think in the beginning, they just use the API to explore the graph and get the sense what does this data look like, right? And then they will download the whole Microsoft Academic Graph for calculation and for design the learning or not learning method. So let me talk about a little bit more about this Microsoft Academic Graph. Hope you can see it. So we have one file over here, and we also separate into several individual files for you to for easy downloading. As you can see, we choose the two files here specifically for KDD Cup. The first one is select the affiliations. So you just need to rank on those affiliations because we have more than 20K institutions in our data. So there's no need for you to rank all of them. So we just selectively select something. It's probably around 740 institutions for you to rank. We also, because for some people who don't want to explore the whole graph, we also selected the 4 research papers for the past 5 years for all these 8 conferences for you to participate in this KDD Cup. So if you don't want, you can just use this data to design your method. So let me talk about a little more about this Microsoft Academic Graph. Those are the entities in our graph, like authors. We have more than 100. But this is not exactly the data. These stats is not exactly data we released for KDD Cup. This is the most recent data. For the paper, we have more than 150 million. So we have a total 6 entities in the graph. We really want every participant to fully utilize the graph for participating in this KDD Cup because you don't know what kind of information can help you, right? We also have some nice graph we plot. This is the number of papers published against the years. As you can see, we really publish papers exponentially. That's really interesting. So a new academic publications every 4 seconds. You can see 2 dips over here. It's just because of what was. And this slope is because of the Great Depression, as you cannot see the text over here. So we really produce a lot of publications. So it is really important for us to understand those publications and all these institutions. Since we released this graph in June 2015, I can see lots of people, lots of researchers utilize this graph for the research, like network embedding. They just trying to build an embedding on top of this heterogeneous graph and to do some other tasks like recommendation or similarity calculation. And also visualization, clustering on top of the field of study, and also how to build the hierarchy on top of the clustering, like link prediction. How do you predict which paper will cite which paper, right? And also, how do you predict the co-authorship between in this social network graph? And also, how do you calculate the ranking on top of the graph, like static rank? Of course, you can also build a recommender system on top of this academic graph. Let me just get some nice visualization from those papers published using our graph. The left one is the network embedding method. They just embed every author and get a very nice visualization on top of all these CS authors. And the right one is a hierarchical clustering method that can classify all these field of studies in our graph. And you can see this large graph is artificial intelligence. And this is software engineering. And it is also very useful in visualization, like you can design different visualization methods to help visualize our graph. So why I talk about all these nice graphs? Because we really expect the participants in this KDD Cup to explore the full data set of this graph. Because if you use more data set, probably you will get better results. I actually copied some graphs from one team in the paper. Yeah, I can cite the paper, but just keep it secret so you can learn something from the talk. I really like this paper because they just used a lot of data in the graph. That's why they can have very good results in the end. So please listen to all the talks and you will know who produce those graphs. So that's why this is a data mining conference. You have to mine all the data in order to achieve your goal, right? Okay, let's move to the fun part. Sorry?
The multi-institution paper. If a paper is authored by 2 institutions.
Yes, we will. In the evaluation data set, we will just we have rules. Each author contributed equally, and each institution for this author contribute equally. So we specifically mention that in the rules. Yeah. The first fun part, actually it's not too fun. As you can see from the face, we are afraid of something, of course. So what we are afraid of? We're afraid of like some trivial methods can win this competition, right? So what is a trivial method? Using impulsive average to predict current year's result. So this is a trivial method, but it should be very effective. So, you probably ask why people will submit these results. So let me show you a case. This is the CGIR phase 1 result. As you can see, all these guys' scores are the same. There are 10 people in this position. They have the same score and the same ranking. So finally, I figured out, I did lots of data mining. So those guys just used past 5 years data we provided to make the final predictions. So it's really scary because if all these guys win the competition, there are 10 people, 10 teams, and every team has 10,000, right? 10,000 US dollars. We will get bankrupt. So, finally, so we got relieved. Here's the graph. This is the final result for top 10 teams. As you can see, using past 3 years and past 4 years average data can only bring you to this location. It's rank 5 over here. We still have 14s that can beat this very effective but trivial method. Thank God. So if you use past 1 years, it will make you to the 45th place in the overall result. If you use past 2 years, the 25th place. If you use the past 3 or 4 years, the 5th place. If you use past 5 years, 16th place. So we don't have to.
Any guesses as to why it drops off if you're using 5 years over 4 years?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't know.
What happened 5 years ago?
It's probably the 5 years ago, the result is very different with this year's results. That's the, yeah, go ahead.
Is that across all phases, or is it just for CGI?
For the overall. Just so for each phase, you use past 5 years to predict. You will get you to the 16th place. So
the reason behind the drop, could it be attributed to the fact that more contributors in the following year or from the institutions, or sometimes it could be the drop related not only more participants?
Yeah, I think everything counts. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
everything counts. You are correct. Yeah. All right. So, since we bring this graph over here, let's just take a look. The top 14s really stood out because they are better than other teams, of course, right? And I really want to mention the first team in this contest. It is the clear winner, as you can see from the slope of the scores, right? This is the NDCG scores. So don't miss the talk in the afternoon. All right, the second fun part. As I said, the real-time leaderboard is just for fun, right, for all of you guys. But it's scientific experiment for us. So we want to know how close between the consensus data and the real ground truth data. As you can see, let me give you an example. This is in the submission stage for SIG-IR. This is the top 10 teams. As you can see, almost everyone are close to the consensus data, right? So it's right here. I think people agree with each other. This is the final ranking. So once we get the final ranked data, you can see there's no overlap at all. There's no overlap. So those are the top 10. Oh, sorry. Those are the top 10 teams. The left hand is top 10 teams in when using the consensus data as ground truth. So which indicates consensus data might not be a good idea to be used as ground truth data in this competition. I have already explained a few reasons, right, in the beginning. Let's take one more look for the consensus leaderboard versus the real leaderboard. Those are the top 3 teams in the consensus leaderboard in the overall results. The first one is AJY, the second one is Go, and the third one is Deep. I think it's Deep Learner. I probably misspelled it. Yeah. Okay, sorry about this. Yeah. If you put the position into the final rank, you will see this first guy ranked at 44th place in the final ranking, and the second guy 24th place, and the third guy is 13th place. Which means the top leaders in consensus data leaderboard is definitely not very good in the final leaderboard. And these are the top 3 teams in real leaderboard. If you put their results in the consensus data leaderboard, surprisingly, yeah, I can still find this 2310B can be ranked at the 4th place in consensus data. They can also be ranked at the 2nd place in the real leaderboard. So good job, guys. So I think this is a surprise finding. So which means probably consensus is still useful, but still it has some distance between consensus data and the real ground truth data. All right, the next fun part is, probably the last fun part is, what's the difference between accepted paper and the camera-ready paper? So as you know, once we get accepted data from the PC chairs, so we will publish the results probably 2 days after the acceptance date. We always say this is just the initial results. Why we say that? Because we know the accepted data versus camera-ready data, there are some differences. Like in this case, for CGIR, the total number of authors in accepted data is 222. But in the camera-ready paper, it's 260. So we have 18 more authors in camera-ready. So these 18 more authors can definitely change the final results. So since we are scientific competition, so we really want to make this competition as fair as possible. That's why we always change the results once we get the camera-ready paper. For KDD, it's the same thing. We have 17 more authors being added to the final version. For multimedia, the good thing is like the PC chairs explicitly told us we don't allow any additional authors. So, but the best thing is in the acceptance data, there are probably 30 authors. They just have empty affiliations. This creates lots of trouble for us because we have to wait for the camera-ready paper to ask them to fill in all these affiliations. That's why the camera-ready for multimedia is July 27th, if I remember correctly. So right after that, finally we released the final scores of our competition. That's almost the end of July, and today is August 14th. So we pushed a little bit to make this happen. All right, let's move to the winners. Congratulations to all the winners. The first prize team is Beauty Vistas. I don't know how to pronounce it. Is anyone here? Yeah. Why you choose this kind of name? What's the meaning of this name?
Wait.
Yeah.
So it's actually from Romanian history. It's like a guy at like 1000 AD that kind of united the tribes.
I see. How do you pronounce it? Yeah.
Burebistas.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah.
Thanks.
You did a great job. The second pin is T310B. Anyone here? Yeah. Yeah, you guys really did a good job. You also make it to the fourth place in the consensus data. Right. Congratulations. Yeah.
The name of our team is T310B, and the T means Tsinghua because we are from Tsinghua University. And our team members are, the roommates. So the 310B is yeah.
We know how to track you down now. Excellent. Perfect.
Yeah, you guys should have a huge dinner together. Yeah, once you get the money today. Yeah. The third prize is a brownie points returns. I think
Mohan here.
Yeah.
I want to hear the story behind your team name.
No, we are just food lovers, and especially very fond of brownies. So.
Was there a brownie points team name before?
Yeah, and then we just there was a small change in the team, so we write it back to you, and then we changed.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, congratulations. We also have some honorable mentions awards for the phase 1 top placement, Team Jello Yakis. Oh, it's over there. Yeah, congratulations. And the phase 2 top placement in general is General here.
Is anybody here from Team
Yeah,
General? All the way at the back. Welcome.
Yes. We don't have the phase 3 because I think the phase 3 top placement has some issues to participate.
Yeah, we had with the phase 3 team, we had a bounced email back from the email that they used to register, and then I finally got in touch with him. He didn't know how I tracked him down, but I have my ways. But then he chose not to submit a paper. So.
Yeah. All right. The final page is it's not the final page actually. So the acknowledgement. So really thank you for all the participants. I really learned a lot from you guys. And I really want to thank all the chairs we have contacted with. I think we probably send tons of emails to those chairs, like PC chairs, organizing chairs, proceeding chairs even, for these 8 conferences. And also really want to thank KD Cup co-chairs. I think Marcus over here. Thank you. Thank you for trusting us. So far we didn't screw up this very bold attempt in KDD Cup history. And we want to thank KDD post workshop and general chairs because the results coming out really late, right? Late July. They finally they made it. They just prepared all the checks. This is most important thing, and all the certificates for you guys.
And plaques, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. This is a reminder. Be sure to attend tonight's opening ceremony because all the prizes and checks will be delivered tonight. I believe it's 5:30 starting from at the Grand.
And I believe that Vlad's team has said that they're going to buy drinks for everybody who's involved with their check. Is that right?
So especially for the teams win the prizes. If you don't show up, I swear I will take your money to my own pocket. Yeah. All right, so I've just leave some time for Q&A.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions about the data set, about the challenge, about other aspects of things that Hao talked about?
Why do you think there's a big difference in the number of authors between the first accepted papers and then camera ready? What happens in that month after it should just be the review process? Why do authors pop up?
Because when I was a student, sometimes I also just submit a single author, but later I will add it on. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So of course, because we read some. That's just kidding. Yeah. We read some papers actually. They just analyze this kind of issue. So when people submit the papers, sometimes they don't include probably the supervisors, and because sometimes the supervisor is the PC chair of this conference. So I'm trying to avoid the conflict of interest. But later on, they will add it back. But it's a bad thing, actually. So that's why when multimedia chair, the multimedia chair told us they don't allow any additional authors because they just want to avoid this post-acceptance conflict of interests. So yeah, but that's the reality. Yeah, still we can see.
On a related note, in terms of the rules for this competition, we did something that was a little bit different than the Wisdom Cup and I think past years of KDD in that we disallowed, this is not quite to your question, but we disallowed participants from being on multiple teams. Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about how that played out and whether or not that had an impact on submissions?
I think it's not necessary for a team, for a member in multiple teams, right? Anyway, you cannot gain anything if you participate in multiple teams because we don't have data for you to tune, right? So, yeah.
But we have seen from competitions past where groups of students in particular will form 6 or 8 different cadres, and so each team composition is different, but any individual may be on 4 or 5 different teams, and they're just sort of playing different techniques off of each other in that particular case. And so we were trying to have people sort of focus in on a single team participation.
And that definitely will boost up the total number of participating teams, right? So
yeah, right. And so when Hao showed that graph of the 500 and 550 participating teams this year. In years past, when you have that ability for an individual to be on multiple teams, you're going to see a ballooning of the number of registered teams. Yeah, you had a question too. I'll come back to you.
Hello. We were one of the participants of this competition, and one thing that we noticed was that there was no relation between the consensus leaderboard and the real leaderboard, apart from that one team. So was there any other way to test our performance? Because we weren't sure whether we'll be improving our data because we were just trying to improve our rank on the consensus leaderboard.
Yeah, as you know, we don't have data, right? We don't have conscious data. Yeah, previous competition, at least they have some dev sets, right? You can use depth sets to tune your parameters, but sometimes depth sets and testing sets are two different sets, right? So we cannot avoid this actually. So the reason we put the consensus data as a leaderboard is we just don't want you to get bored doing this participation, right? This is an open issue, so we will think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know why you choose conference as evaluation, criteria. Because if you only focus on the computer science, that makes sense. But even some computer science more applied, like bioinformatics, computer science, they're not actually top conference the only venue for them. So there's other journals and other things. So how do you do that? Because computer science is a big domain, also applied.
Yeah. So we have some time constraints. So we also talked about this before. So if possible, we can use Nature, right? So, but we only have like 3 months. We have to let it finish in 3 months. So for Nature, for the other top journals, first of all, the submission, people can submit anytime, right? So, and it's really hard for us to get this kind of data. So this is our first step, of course. So our ultimate goal is really build an open method for everyone on the open data. Yeah. Thank you for the very great question. Yeah.
Hao, any observations about the fact that there was little consensus between the 3 phases? We saw a lot of volatility in the top 10 leaderboards from phase 1 through phase 3.
Probably there's no overlap. Yeah, based on my on top 10 teams in 3 phases, because this task is really challenging, and also these teams are very competitive. So in each team, they use I can observe from because I reviewed all the papers you submitted. For one phase, this team used the method, right? But for the second phase, they choose a different method. And the third phase, another different method. So you can see this kind of variance when participating in these 3 phases. And also, I think the teams finally stand out. They all mentioned that the stableness is very important because sometimes they just overfit the training data, right? So they just use a method that can produce the most stable results. So you don't really necessarily to be in the top 3 in each phase in order to win this competition. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Do you have the ground truth of other conferences?
That's a great question. Actually, I want to test it, but it involves lots of human efforts. I want to see what's the overall for this 8 conference. What's the overall top 3 teams? So it's probably the same team. Probably not. Yeah. It's hard to say because I can see some methods are really stable. So they just utilized lots of data. From those data, they just really learned something that can produce very stable results. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Mohan. I just want to know, like, your true goal was to rank the universities, research universities. But we are, for now, we are ranking them for a conference. So how do you plan to achieve the true goal?
Yeah, as I said, this is just we moved a small step in our task, right? So in the future, probably because we already released all the data contains all these top journals, not just top, right? So all other so-called second tier or third tier conferences and journals. So I think this is just a start. So I think the KDD community or some other communities can help move this further in the future.
Any other questions?
If you don't have any questions, I just intentionally left one question.
For yourself?
Yes. So in case nobody asks me questions, that's very embarrassing. So I'm just nobody asks this question. Why we choose NDCG, right? So
why did you choose NDCG?
Oh, it's good. It's a great question, actually. I think we have some debate with Marcus, because Marcus and I, we talk about this since the beginning of this competition. We actually did lots of scientific research. We did lots of simulation analysis and to compare different metrics, especially comparing with most of the two popular ranking used in industry like NDCG and pairwise evaluation, right? So we found that pairwise evaluation is really not good to separate the good and the bad results in this case. Because we also used the past few years average data to make predictions, right? We found out the pairwise probably just it didn't recognize the positions of the teams, of the institutions. So it's hard to separate good and bad results. We also tried to use a different NDCG, because you know NDCG has a in first position is 1, second position is probably 2 point something, right? So you have to divide by 2 point something. We tried a different slope, but I think we have to use this original NDCG, because there are some lots of theoretical analysis to prove this kind of NDCG equation can really separate a good ranking from bad rankings. So that's why finally we stick with NDCG, with lots of analysis.
Can you show an example of ranking?
No, I don't have it right here. So what kind of ranking?
The purpose is to rank those universities, so I was expecting to see the rankings.
Oh, no, we didn't publish the rankings yet.
One more question. Are you going to plan to publish the
Yes,
submitted
that's a good
papers?
question. So we will think about this, because once everything is finished, because we want to know whether there's some difference between camera-ready paper and the papers published in ACM, the ACM websites. Yeah.
I've got one last question on. So the question that you had up here is whether or not we published the rankings from the participant teams, or at least the winning teams, on how they fared. We should do that. But also, did we enter our own heterogeneous rank into this as well? And did we score our own ranking against the same metric?
No, I just used average. Yeah.
Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning, we've got some things to demo from our Microsoft Academic website. Come down to the conference booth and get my commercial plug in here again. But we have rankings of institutions and journals and conferences and authors as well in that system. And one of the things that we've done in some of these competitions in the past is actually run some of our own ranking systems through these, just to see how we fare against the participants as well. And I don't think we did it in this one, but we could do retrospectively as part of that paper. So that'd be good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. I introduced our team at the beginning, but we have some late arrivals, so I'm going to make Iris and Arnab stand up as well back here. Iris and Arnab are also part of our team, the data science team. Oh, and Bin? Feel free to talk to any of us during the break. You now understand a little bit more about how the competition was run. We've got, I think, about 35 minutes, 40 minutes now of coffee break. I've been told that there's coffee and donuts and things. I have no idea where it is, so take the extra 10 minutes to find it. And then meet back here, try and be back in your seats at 10 o'clock. For the rest of the morning, we're actually going to get into the meat of the workshop today, and you're going to learn about the approaches that the various teams have taken, some of their intuition, some of the data sets that they used, and some of the results. So thank you all very much. See you in a bit.
Thank you, guys.